Uh, yeah, I see like there's cross innovation for sure. Like Bitcoin ordinals is not something I really paid attention to much, but it sounds like it's like the Bitcoin's moment for NFTs, which were mostly on other projects before, like Ethereum. And yeah, I mean, I also see things like Get Alby. I don't know if you used Get Alby before,
Hmm.
but Get Alby is a browser plugin for Lightning. It reminds me a little bit of it reminds me a little bit of MetaMask for Ethereum, but I think it's better because effectively, like you can hook up your own node. If you run your own node, you can connect it to GetAlby. It also provides a wallet for you if you're a new user, and they'll custody it for you. You can also connect it to LM bits if you want to do that as well, and it also allows you to have a Noster. It can hold your Nostr private key. So, one of the things that's important is that if you're going to use Nostr, you should probably not put your private key into somebody's random website. So, the good thing is like GetAlby allows you to sign for permission to use other experimental Nostr websites or, for you to log into other, effectively like log in to various Nostr clients. Yeah. So if like, one Nostr client isn't your taste, if you don't like it, you can try another one. But then you don't have to sacrifice your key security.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. I think I like that idea of like you're saying, like Ellen bits and doing the split payments. And obviously you mentioned like ordinals. Um, I think probably moving forward we are going to see a lot more stuff like this because there is definitely a need for it. There is a thirst for it. Like different use cases, new use cases, experimentation. Um, and I think like one of the things that Ethereum has with DAOs um, is something that's like it's always interesting to see how these DAOs are structuring the governance and whether they succeed or whether they fail, what the good DAOs are and what the bad DAOs are. But the point is that I think um, it sounds like with these like LN bits and doing split payments and things, like we're in some ways getting closer to maybe seeing something like DAOs on Bitcoin, if even if they're not like on chain in the same way as like smart contracts on Ethereum. But if they're done in this way using like split payments or like multi sig accounts and like this LM bits kind of stuff, adding plugins and different way, and or even Noster, like even using some other kind of protocol or network to create like the foundation or the infrastructure for the thing that makes up the DAO, but it uses Bitcoin as the main currency, the way to transact. I think that might be cool to see if we get some kind of like DAO like things on Bitcoin in the future. I've also heard of M ordinals. I don't know if you heard of M ordinals. I heard about this the other day. So it's like ordinals on Monero. Um, that seems kind of. I mean, I've not sort of like you. I've not really looked into ordinals that much. It didn't. I mean, as you say, there's a lot going on, so I haven't really had the chance to check them out yet. But I've seen a little bit about them. But I guess it's not necessarily my thing. Maybe it didn't really like stir up. I mean, it's obviously an
Yeah.
interesting idea because it's a new thing on Bitcoin, right? It's got people excited about Bitcoin again, or
Right.
innovation on Bitcoin. But personally, it's not something I was like rushing to learn about.
Yeah, like I have like mixed feelings about DAOs, to be honest with you. Like I think people can self-organize on their own without needing like a DAO structure. That's just my opinion. And like I sort of come from this perspective of like small business, entrepreneurship, international business, where, you know, I think people can self organize in a way that suits what their needs are. And if we're heading towards more of a decentralized world, like, and the thing of DAOs is it could work for something that's international, where everyone's remote, but it depends on how the structure of the organization is. And sometimes you don't need it. And the reason why I say that is because, like, if you look at the way Nostr was developed, they didn't need a DAO. They just like went and did it, and they just self-organized. And I think that we're sort of at the edge of where Lightning is going to mature to a point where it really is going to become used in a corporate setting or like a company setting or, whatever kind of organizational setting you would need, because people are already talking about creating general ledgers on Lightning. And to me, that's a signal. It's like when we start talking about general ledgers, you're talking about businesses. And maybe this is a local business, like a local first business in a developing country like El Salvador, or South Africa, or Guatemala, or Vietnam, or someplace where banking is incredibly difficult to get access to. But there's a tremendous amount of wealth generated in local goods and services. So, the potential to organize around that is tremendous. And that's where I think like the microeconomies will grow very rapidly in the next decade if they have access to banking. Like I worked in Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa, like East Africa, a long time ago. And everything that I learned there is that what a lot of academics write about these economies is really wrong. It's just my opinion. Like people there work very, very hard. They produce a lot of stuff. They produce some very interesting goods and services. Mm-hmm. But the problem that's always been the big barrier is they don't have access to financing and they don't have access to banking. And so that stifles the growth of anything, even locally. I mean, forget about international markets, but like even locally, it's really rough. Because everything's based on cash, and very often you're looking at a cash economy which has fiat that just depreciates overnight, and they don't have any control over that. So it's I think the potential for them to organize there is very great, and I think that it starts with like a self-organizing collective or a small business is where like the first major adoptions are, which is why if you look at the way LMBits is built, I mean, it's really all towards like really small businesses, and it's the same thing with Square. Like Jack Dorsey is a huge proponent of Lightning and Bitcoin. And if you look at Square and their customer base, they're really after the small entrepreneur, the side gig, the thing where someone might be offering you some online service or some consulting service, or maybe some small business. That's what their goal, their target market is. And I can understand the connection and Jack Dorsey's obsession with Africa, because that's one of the largest untapped markets with one of the largest potentials for growth in the next decade. So like how people organize and how people choose to organize, I think that's freeform, less so than a DAO. I mean, if you want to do a DAO, that's cool. I mean, that's your choice, but I think it's more of a, people can organize in the way they think that's best fit for what their use case is.
Unchecked governments have eradicated privacy and truth. Those who resist are brought down swiftly, but we refuse to submit. Unipunks are freedom fighters, protected by encrypted shadows. The future we're building is sovereign and uncensorable. The moonlit night is coming.